So what do I need to do in order to solve that? And he said, all you need is 2 sessions. Are you kidding me? You're going to fix that in 2 sessions. And he said, yes.
Hey, this is Peter Sage back in the new Mindset Hypnotherapy studio with another amazing case study with a lady who has got an amazing story to share. This is Sorina, and Sorina had an issue that plagues so many people, which has been called one of the #1 fears in the world, next to death. And I'm talking about the fear of public speaking. And this wasn't just affecting public speaking how most people think of it, where you have to get up in front of a crowd, which can obviously also be quite sort of nerve-wracking. But this was really about fear of what just sharing to people in a group, even over Zoom. Explain a little bit how this was affecting you and kind of where you think it came from.
Well, I think it all started when I was 5 or 6 years old. I remember a particular moment when I looked at myself in the mirror and I completely hated myself. I was so disgusted by what I seen. And then it continued with certain negative remarks that I heard at home from my family that weren't ill-intended. They were just making fun of me. They were joking, but I just took them the wrong way. They just didn't land well inside, and they became, a self-fulfilling prophecy where I just didn't feel smart. I didn't feel beautiful. I just had a horrible opinion about myself, and I felt horrible inside my body. It was horrible to be myself. So this was early in the childhood years, and after that, during teenage, I remember I wanted to be a singer, I wanted to be a model, and I had everything I needed to become that, but I couldn't support myself in any way. Every time I was in public, every time I was on a stage, I would completely freeze and I would forget everything I had to say, and people in the crowd who knew me before wouldn't recognize myself. And later on, as an adult, like 2 years ago, I joined the mastermind, and it was a huge financial effort for me. I wanted to grow, I wanted to learn more about my profession, which was copywriting, and I wanted to learn more about marketing, and every 2 weeks we had special guests who would, have a class, present a class, and then my teacher would open the door for questions. And I had the possibility to ask these people that I looked up to, and I studied their work, and it was like a one life chance opportunity, exactly. People that you really, really look up to, and then when it's time to ask a question, you just want to disappear.
And this wasn't in person, this was actually on Zoom.
It was on Zoom, yeah. That's the craziest thing, because no one could touch me, no one could hurt me in any way, but still, all I wanted was not to be seen, not to have to speak, and just shrink.
And it's such a shame because, as you say, we all have dreams. We all have that part, that voice inside of us that knows that we're meant for something bigger or something that lights us up. And to have that light shut down by something as, I won't say as trivial because it's not, but as easy to fix if you know how, as self-image. Yeah, but if you don't know how to fix that, it's going to take you down the path for the rest of your life, robbing you consistently of those dreams and of that potential. And I can imagine that was, the implications were also probably on the business and the financial side as well.
Yeah, because I managed to intrigue people, sending them cold emails, applying to jobs, and they were really, really excited to meet me. And I thought I could hide behind writing forever, and that wouldn't imply me showing my face or expressing myself verbally, or in public or whatever. So I managed to make them interested in meeting me, but then when the time came for me to show up and, just convince them that I was the right fit for that job, I would completely collapse. And I knew in the first 5 minutes, I knew that that meeting was failure, and that I was a failure, and that no one wanted to work with me. So it was crazy. It was nerve-wracking. It was soul-destroying, because it affected the image I had about myself. It affected my capacity to believe in myself and to show up as who I truly was.
And what had you done to try to solve this in the past?
Well, in the past I tried affirmations, but plain affirmations just don't work when you don't have that capacity to feel them inside. So I would stand in front of a mirror and repeat affirmations robotically, but they wouldn't do anything for me. So I was about to give up. I had hit rock bottom.
And then you came across and discovered Jamie.
Yeah, that was really a pivotal moment. I came across him, and I remember I contacted him and I told him, hey, this is what I'm suffering. I'm from, and I really, really need to find that confidence to be myself in front of other people, even if it's just in a Zoom meeting. So what do I need to do in order to solve that? And he said, all you need is 2 sessions. Are you kidding me? You're going to fix that in 2 sessions. And he said, yes. Okay, so we met.
Were you nervous?
Yeah, more or less. My friends told me that I was crazy to go for that, because he might play with my mind, or who knows what type of suggestions he would embed in my mind, and how would I find the courage to do that if someone has full access to your mind. But it has nothing to do with that, because in reality it was very relaxing. All I had was to sit down and just relax and focus on his words. And I don't know, the hypnotherapy session lasted about 15-20 minutes perhaps, and when it was over, I immediately felt that I was more confident, and I was more happy to be myself. And
that was in one session, one 15-minute session.
Yeah, 15, 20
From a
minutes.
lifetime of being hampered by this self-image issue and self-belief issue.
Yeah.
Excellent. And then you had a second session, I believe?
I had a second session then, but already by that time, before even starting the second session, I could feel that there was a huge shift that happened inside. And I knew that I would never go back to the old self. I could feel that. So we had the second session, and he said, okay, now what you have to do is confront your biggest fear, public speaking, even if it is on a Zoom call. So go for it. And 3 or 4 days later, I messaged him and I told him, hey, things worked much better than I expected. I gathered the courage to speak up. I raised the hand. I told everyone what I had to say. I think I talked for about 5 or 10 minutes, and my teacher couldn't believe it, and she was so happy for me. And she said something that stuck. It was, not only you gave permission to yourself to speak and to be yourself, but you gave permission to others, because I wasn't the only one who suffered from that. You gave permission to others, and that was really, really the biggest reward.
Amazing. And a lot of the time we don't realize how much, through withholding our gift and not willing to be willing to confront our own fears, we're setting an example for others to do the same. But as soon as we have the courage to release that, and again, when I say have the courage, it was simply a decision to sit and relax for 15 minutes. Let's put it into perspective from this side of the fence. And following that, the gate opens, and now other people can say, oh wow, what would my life be like if I could get rid of that fear? What would my life be like if I could improve my self-image? What would my life be like if I was actually able to stand almost unapologetically authentic and own myself and be happy with myself, with who I see in the mirror? You can't put a price on that. Not for unlocking our future that is calling us and even if we're not willing to listen because we're stopped by some level of fear. So if somebody else was considering hypnotherapy, what would you share?
I would say whether it's a phobia or, I don't know, an addiction or a limiting belief, something that really blocks you, okay, think of removing it. And with it, you remove the problems. But that's just a fact. Okay, you remove the block and you removed all the problems. But what next? This is what I would ask people. What next? What would you do if you had that tiny level of curiosity to discover what's on the other side of the door? You know, what can you achieve? What else? How else can you help people? How else can you impact people? How else can you set an example for others? So for me, this was the biggest takeaway, and my recommendation to people is that is to adopt that level of curiosity and excitement to see what's possible for them once that block is removed.
Jamie is a master at being able to use his unique system to completely erase things like childhood trauma, phobia, self-image issues, and everything else you can see here on the site. In short, New Mindset Hypnotherapy would like to introduce you to the future you that you've not met yet, the one that's calling and waiting with your full potential. Thank you, Sorina.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Pleasure.